Okay, I'm going to do a few minutes of Meam Loez, Parshas Vayeilech. So he says here, perceive your Sefer Torah, Torah Dal Parshas Tanis. The Torah, it's four small parshas, four small sections. It's actually kind of funny last night when the guy read the Torah, Al-Korah. He basically read half the parsha. I mentioned the guy said there's one like what just happened? The guy just read half the parsha. It was very strange. Vayeilech Moshe v'daber d'var me'ela kol Yisrael. So Moshe went and he spoke these things to the Jews. That's Perek Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, and Devarim. So he says here, Vayeilech Moshe went. Yisrael. After he spoke with the Jews, Halach me'ol, he went from his tent, Shayasama from Mishkan, which was close to the Mishkan, Kafishan Yisbar, Parshas Midbar, as explained in Parshas Midbar, Shachon Lefnei Mishkan Hashem, that those encamped by the tabernacle of God, Moshe and Aaron and Banav, that were Moshe and Aaron and his sons. Sham Halach Etzel B'Shev L'Vidiam Shumeis. And then from there he went to each tribe to tell them that he died. I don't know who he is in this particular case. Maybe Moshe died, maybe Aaron died, I don't know. Even so, they were not afraid, but their hearts became stronger from the words of Yeshua. I guess Yeshua is the one who spoke, but it says here that Moshe spoke. I don't know. So even though they had these trumpets, and even though he could have gathered them together with these trumpets, like Moshe had done in the desert, because he was on the way to die, God hid these trumpets. So he wouldn't have Moshe blasting on them and the Jews gathering. In order to fulfill the statement that there is no ruler on the day of death. I really have no idea what that paragraph is saying. It's very confusing who the he's are and who's speaking and who died. He said these things to the Jews. The way of the righteous, that they put aside their own pains, and they deal with the needs of the group, of the public. So Moshe did. Was also, he hid the pain of his own death, I guess that was coming along. And he worried about what the Jews needed. You have similar to Goldman's father. As far as I understand it, his wife died, and he's not doing well himself, but ever since his wife died, and he's gotten a little sicker, they've started doing the soup kitchen, breakfast and supper, and 3 out of 4 weeks Shabbos. The 4th week they go to Meron. So Moshe says to them, I'm 120 years old today. Says all the years they didn't make any mark on me. This day, at one point, Rega Cutman, in one tiny second, all of a sudden I become 120. All of a sudden I'm an old man, I'm not able to go and come anymore. Even though his eyes didn't get dim, and his joints were still moist, or whatever you want to call it. God took away from him the strength, because he came to the moment. He was about to exit from the world. Vayeilech, and he went. In the way of hinting, it says that he went. Vayeilech Moshe, woe is that Moshe went. Woe about his speech and about the customs of the generation. Oh, no, not customs. He's the one who leads. A manhig is a leader. So there were 3 leaders for the Jews. Yeah, Moshe and Aaron and Miriam. Aber Hayavis Miriam. The well that they got their water was from the merit of Miriam. Shmeisa Pasuk Mehem Aber. And when she died, the well dried up. The verse says that Miriam died and there was no longer water. Chazar b'schus Moshe, but it came back in the merit of Moshe. He's Aaron, we stopped going on your cover. When Aaron died, the clouds of glory went away. And all the congregants saw. Actually, they all feared. And they expound on it as if it says, and they saw, how they see it, it became visible. And these clouds of glory came back in the merit of Moshe. When Moshe died, the well dried up, the clouds disappeared. It seems at that exact moment, all three things passed away. I don't know what the three things are. Because you have the well, you have the clouds of glory. What's the third thing? The third thing is having leaders. I know Menigim is in leaders. And this is what's hinted. And he spoke, Hadvarim things, Vayeilech. What was that left? The thing that the speech left. And with it, all of the leaders. So once Moshe passed on, there was no longer anybody who was getting absolutely clear prophecy directly from God. He's the only one ever who got absolutely clear prophecy, exactly what God intended to convey. The rest of the prophets is not so clear. And as the generations go on and on and on, it gets less and less clear until you get to our generation where it's like, if you can find a leader at all, like Shmuel Diamond wants me to study Chavetz Chaim. It's מאוד מעריך את הספר הזה. I understand that Chavetz Chaim was a gadol. Yet the Lubavitchers who say that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was a gadol. I wouldn't know one way or the other. I'm a simple guy. I grew up in school, TV, a little bit of sports. What do I care about? I care about having a home. I care about having a wife. I care about having relatively decent health despite my habits. And having a decent amount of money despite the fact that I do nothing for it, basically. I read words. And have leaders who can guide me to the things that I want, even though it makes no sense. I'm going to do a few more minutes. Unfortunately, the commentators write, but one of the reasons that Moshe didn't enter into Israel, the Torah was given in the desert. So the Torah was given in the desert, and Moshe Rabbeinu, he would teach Torah with each and every one of the Jews. And in this way, everybody learned Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu. Nobody could say, this is what Moshe told us. Because each person would argue, Moshe told me this, Moshe told me that, Moshe told me this, Moshe told me that. No. He learned with everyone exactly the same thing. Because he spoke directly into their ears. I guess Kilu, as if God spoke to himself, the words just went right in. And I think if you take a look somewhere else, I think it's in the Loez where he says that first God spoke to Moshe. And then Moshe told it to Aaron. And then Moshe told Aaron and like the Zakanim. And then Moshe told to Aaron and the Zakanim and like the Nesim. And then Moshe told to Aaron and the Zakanim and the Nesim and like Am Yisrael. And they all discussed it amongst themselves. And they were able to come to an understanding of exactly what was going on. It's not exactly what he's saying here, but a similar idea. Especially the Ten Commandments are very from God, and then after that, Moshe will explain it, I guess. I don't know. If Moshe had entered into Israel and he would sit in one city, he could have one tribe or one family even saying, Moshe told me this, Moshe told us this. And they will come to arguments with regard to Torah. That's what the verse somebody tells. Moshe went and he said these things to all the Jews. They should call each other, you shouldn't be a Torah. God said one thing. Not like today where you have 20 different customs on each different item. When you look at one verse and you can have 50,000 different explanations, and some of them makes very, very different practical implications. Can you or can you not wear a belt made of pigskin? Can you or can you not wear shoes made of pigskin? Can you or can you not play with a football made of pigskin? It's very different ramifications. If you say it's forbidden absolutely to touch pigskin, so then you can't have any of these things. And if you say that it's absolutely permitted, so then you can have all of them. Except for then you come into another problem is, let's say you have kids playing in a elementary school and they have a football. The father gave one of the kids a football to play with. He says, I'm Yisrael, my kid's Yisrael, 90%, 95%, 99% Jews are Yisrael. So I'm going to play football in recess or whatever. He'll play with a couple of friends or whatever. And lo and behold, there's a Kohen in the class and he goes to play and it's forbidden. The Kohen, he's not allowed to touch it. And in those circumstances, the Kohen is allowed to touch it. Even though all Jews are b'cheskes meis, nonetheless, a Kohen, he's not allowed to. He has a special prohibition of staying pure as best as he can. That's a different implication. Even if you say it's permitted, if you say it's absolutely forbidden, okay, so you have no problem. Nobody's going to run into that issue. It's like a peanut allergy. How can you let one student in the entire school come to school, peanut butter sandwich, if there's one kid in the whole school who has a severe peanut allergy and can die from smelling it, let alone tasting it? Spiritual impurity versus physical ailments. At some levels it's very similar, and at some levels it's very different. But at least it's you can compare apples and oranges. They're both fruits. They both grow from seeds. Both relatively sweet fruit. They're both definitely fruit. It's not like strawberry versus pineapple versus banana versus tomatoes. Tomatoes are scientifically classified as a fruit. It's a vegetable. I don't know. They say scientifically it's a fruit. זהו שאומר כאן הכוס ואילך משה וידברס דבר מהידע על כל ישראל כדי שכל ישראל ישמעו בי ודברים כשם שדיברתי עם כל ישראל שלא יבואו לידי מחלוקת כך אומר אלי השם שלא ייכנס לישראל שלא יבואו לידי מחלוקת. So it's one of the reasons he was not allowed to enter Israel because God forbid he goes sits and he moves. Although technically Moshe was a Levite, so he didn't have a nachla. There were specific cities for the Levites, but even so, you can have the Levites. They come together. They come, one family of Levites going around with all the rest of the Jews and saying, Moshe told us this, and Moshe told us that, Moshe told us this, and they have, different malchukas. Let alone if it was amongst the regular people. Okay, we got 2 more paragraphs, and then I'm sure we're running to Tachkamoni for a little bit of supper. I don't know how much I'm going to eat, but I'm still a little hungry. The fish and chips, technically, it's probably enough, but Pasukim elu maikshim the parshas of Chanan, Mikusharim the parshas of Chanan. So he says these verses. Some who say that these verses are connected to parshas of Chanan. L'shem mukta mucha b'torah, but that there's no chronological order necessarily. Not there isn't at all, but not necessarily chronological order in Torah. Aish never sham the savers yardin is that. He says a proof of this is the verse says you Moshe will not pass the Jordan. Sav Yishuv v'cheskev amseu, you should command Yeshua, and you should strengthen him, and you should give him courage. Kan kasav Hashem Omer Elai v'Yisav over Gomer, and over here it says Hashem said to me, you're not gonna pass the Jordan. Now kasav Ikar Moshe Yeshua, and immediately it says the Moshe called to Yeshua. Amar 11 said to him, Leinikol Yisrael, to the eyes of all the Jews. He says Chazak v'Amatz. He says be strong and be courageous. Never, no. So he says, for sure he didn't wait till after he prayed and says to God, if I can pass, please, cancel this, forgive, please, this nation. If you do forgive, cancel this not to pass. I have no idea. So Moshe is going to die in 100 like it, and they're not going to have damage to one of his nails. I don't know what's going on here. So he told him about the decree from God that he gave him Pereira. something to cancel his forgiveness, but he didn't want it. Maybe he's going to ask for mercy. And he's going to ask for mercy for himself, just like he asked for mercy for others. Even though Moshe says by himself he's 120 years old, even though I can't go and come anymore in front of you, I can't serve you like I used to, tell you what's what from God. It's not because I'm lacking strength. It's because of the command of God. He says to him, you will not pass the Jordan. He says all these things. He says maybe they'll understand, and they'll get together and they'll pray for Moshe. So Moshe himself, he can't pray for himself, but maybe the Jews all together they're going to pray for Moshe. Even just as he saw that there was no choice, there was no hope, he began to console and said, if I'm going to die, God is alive and well. Yeshua is going to be your guide. He's going to be my place to pray for you. The place to come to. This is even though I fell, I don't know, I have risen through the parnas. I guess is a different use of the word parnas, because you even have spiritual parnas. There's the finances you make, and there's how you feel, and spiritual parnas from Yeshua. Shaytekeya Maria v'tekeya Mapechoma. Yeshua by Yericho. He sounded the trumpets, or he sounded the shofar, and the walls of Yericho fell. So our rabbis explained Moshe went to the mountains and the hills and the seas and the rivers to ask them, to ask God to give him longer life. Afterwards he went back to where he was. This is what it says in Vayeilech, which is the next week's parsha. Moshe came, so he returned and came to where he was, to his place, and he spoke the words of the song to the Jews. As it was called a song. Thank you for watching. I hope it was somewhat enjoyable, or somewhat educational, or I don't know what. Peace out.